App. Hey, too many buttons, too many buttons. Hi, and welcome to Monday Night Live. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show tonight. I want to welcome everyone from Facebook as well as our new stream going to YouTube. I'm hoping we're going to have a really great show tonight. It seemed like a lot of people said they were going to come. So let's just pray it is busy, busy, busy because I could really use to have a busy show tonight. Yeah, it's that mute button. You got to hit the mute button to like not be muted. Anyway, um, so tonight I wanted to talk about the concept of fear. So I don't know about you guys, Mercury went direct and things are supposed to be good and kumbaya and everything's supposed to be working good, but they haven't been. And I feel like for a lot of people, when there are challenges that get um, projected into our reality, it can bring up fear. And fear is an emotion that can stop us all in our tracks. When we get scared, instead of going, oh, I'm going to go ahead and do this, we often go and put the brakes on and not. And everybody experiences fear. It's not just, one person or, miscellaneous people. We've all experienced fear in our lives. But I think that there are some people more than others that um, have additional amounts of fear in their lives. There's something called our fight or flight response, and it is our stress response system to when we experience something that is threatening to us. And so we can fight, we can put up our dukes and duke it out, with our actions or with our words or with our behaviors. We can run away, aka flight, where we can back off of the situation or we can turn and walk away. Or if you're a little kid, you may have just run away. Or the third one is freeze, where we just kind of become a deer in a headlight and many times we dissociate. And so when there's something that's challenging that happens to us, and especially if our fight or flight response system is somehow, I'm going to say, sensitive, especially to the thing that we're having the reaction to, it can trigger us and it can make it more challenging to not be scared, to relax ourselves so that we can move forward. I've said that fear is the thief of dreams. There are things that so many people want to do, but they allow themselves to get in the way. They think that they can't or they don't deserve it, or, some reason keeps them from having and achieving their goals. But many times it's fear that stops them dead in their tracks. And it's interesting. So there were experiments run, and I read this a really long time ago, but I thought it was really fitting for right now. That there are certain things that are built into us for the most part that will activate our fear response. And in this one situation, which I thought was very novel, in a culture where snakes were not part of their environment, they didn't have issues with snakes, etc. When snakes were shown to young children, they all had a startle response. Now, granted, there are people that like snakes and have snakes for pets and wear them on their body and stuff. But for a young child, that have never been exposed to a snake, what they found is that they had a startle response. But most of the fears that we have are based on our programming. We're told that we don't sing good, or we're not good in front of a group of people, or what we say isn't important, or it doesn't really matter. And those things become fixated inside of us. And so when a situation comes to the surface that pushes on one of those buttons, pushes on one of those programs that we've assumed are true about ourselves, it can create fear inside of us. And when that happens, it activates our inner critic. And I think we're going to do a whole show on inner critic and stories, but we'll just kind of touch on it for now. But our inner critic is that voice inside of our head that tells us that we're stupid, or we're lazy, or we're fat, or we can't do this, or we can't do that. And we all have an inner critic. And, I think for most people, their inner critic is very loud and rambunctious. And the inner critic will say things to us that we would never, ever, ever say in public to someone else. And then there are our stories, which there's something that's going on, and then we kind of add all of this detail. Well, if I say something, then they're going to do this, and then they're going to react that way, and then this is going to happen. When the reality is we called someone and they didn't return our phone call. We add all of this to it, and that just adds to the fear. We add a story that takes us deeper into that stress response, making it more challenging for us to create internal equilibrium and not be afraid. But one of the things that ways I think of fear is that it's resistance. So when I experience fear inside of myself, I usually use it as an opportunity to just kind of look at it and go, okay, there's a piece of me that doesn't want to do this, or there's a piece of me that's having an issue with this. So what is it? And, sometimes you have that fear and you realize that what you were afraid of, you should be afraid of. And that's okay. That is totally okay. But a lot of the times it's our own internal stuff that is getting in the way, that programming that I was talking about that keeps us from moving forward. And it ends up keeping us stuck. And so by digging in and asking, well, why am I afraid? What's going on inside of me that is bringing up all of this emotion? Why don't I want to do this? Why? The big question is why? Why? And sometimes it's something that you need to overcome. Sometimes you have to like put your big girl panties on and go, okay, this is scaring the crap out of me, and I'm just going to do it anyway. So this was a lot of years ago. And I got this message. This is totally a true story. I got this message that said, it's time. And I was like, time for what? And the message said, it's time to start a radio show. And I was like, right, you're kidding me. I don't even like talking in front of people. So why would I want to do a radio show? And all of this fear was coming up for me, which I knew was just this resistance that I needed to look at and needed to overcome. And years later, here I am blabbing to my computer, waving at a chat room with like a cool fractal pattern behind me. But when you sit there and address the fear, there are so many things that you can overcome to add value to yourself and your life that you maybe never knew you could do. Another true story. My washing machine drain, it was spouting everywhere. And so I'm like, okay, well, the choices are I could call a plumber and probably spend $300, or I can try to like stick a snake down in it and fix it. And so I did find a snake at my house, and I tried to do it and it wasn't working. And I ended up calling a friend, and it's still not fixed. So I ended up calling the plumber anyway. But I just kind of looked at that fear and go, well, and watched a YouTube video. And I'm like, okay, this really isn't that hard, so that initial fear got transcended by watching a YouTube video and going, oh, you just take this thing and you shove it in there and you twirl this knob and that should fix it, which it didn't. But that's okay, because now I have the experience of having worked with a snake, and not that it worked for this situation, but there might be an occasion down the road where I will need to utilize it to unstick something. So that's my hope. Anyway, but as I've been saying, and just kind of adding on to that, many times what we're experiencing is really just kind of an irrational thought based on that old programming. And so once we acknowledge what the thought is, or what that programming was, it will help calm down the fear we're experiencing inside and give us the opportunity to move forward. Or at least that's the hope. That's the goal of it. Sometimes we can acknowledge the fear, and acknowledge the thought, but still can't work up enough gumption to make the change. And that's okay too, because, life is all about unwinding and figuring out what's going on inside of us. So maybe you couldn't make the change now. Maybe you couldn't unstick your drain today, but it doesn't mean that the experience of looking at it won't come back, or, the situation won't come back, where you can take that information and maybe utilize it to work through a similar fear down the road, because you've already looked at it and you understand it, and you might be able to, the next time, hang on to the chair, white knuckling it, and make it happen. Because it's all a process, and it's not supposed to necessarily happen all at once, and that's okay, but it's working on that process, chipping away at it a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. Some things that you can do if you're facing fear is breathe. We've talked about breathing, just taking it in and holding it and using it as an opportunity to clear your mind. When we deep breathe, it activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which helps to calm the body down, and that will also help to reduce the feelings of fear that you might be experiencing. It might be a good idea to spend some time journaling about what the situation is or what you're afraid of, because journaling helps you, one, to quiet the mind, but it also helps you have the opportunity to unravel what's going on and maybe find that thought or find what that limitation is, and then use it to move forward. Again, maybe not in this situation, but at a later point in time. And I also find that talking to someone, and I'm not necessarily saying a counselor, but, a friend or whatever, saying to a friend or whatever, it gives you the opportunity to kind of, again, sort through what you're feeling. And if you're talking to a live person, they might be able to ask you some questions to help you dig down even deeper. But the biggest thing is to be able to take the time to become aware of what you're thinking and what you're feeling inside, and sort through it so that you can make an inspired choice, an intelligent choice, a choice based out of consideration that is going to be for your highest good, versus just running away and not doing anything at all. So I hope the next time you find yourself afraid or fearful, that you'll remember this conversation, maybe take a few breaths, maybe take a step back and look at what's going on, because you might be able to acknowledge the fear and say, hey, fear, and move on and move through it. Thank you. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and open up the comments. Okay, so, and I'm just going to say this in advance. I know that people are just coming in. Um, I don't talk about dead people, so please don't ask me about some dead person. Now, if it's a ghost in your house, that's a different story. But if you want me to know about, Aunt Sally or somebody, that isn't happening. And I don't predict the future. So, because the future is impossible to tell. We are on a path and we are on a journey, and it's impossible to know that you're going to walk out on this, walk out in your driveway and a car is going to come and take you out. I mean, that's just, yeah. So I just don't go there. Um, okay, so Chris and Jerry, how are you doing? Let me just say hi to everybody. Oofy, hey, Chris and Jerry. I know that Cindy came in. Miss Tanya, woohoo! Hey, Miss Tanya. Maya, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Miss Cindy, Barbara, hello. Lexi, hey, girl. I know you have a thing down here, but you're kind of down the list, so I will get to you. Okay, so Chris and Jerry, so I don't know if it was Chris or Jerry. If you could ask a more specific question about your health and wellness, I mean, that's really general. So if there's a health concern that you want me to take a look at, if you can be a bit more specific, I would really appreciate that. And I will come back to you as I move down the list. Okay, so let's see. So Maya, you sure can have a reading. I hope you heard me talking before. I don't talk about dead people. I don't predict the future. But if you want to ask a question, because I don't do cards, I do cold readings. I like questions. So if you have a question that is fairly-ish specific, I would be happy to respond. Okay, Lexi, wow, you just moved up the list here pretty quick. So let's see what she has to say. Hey, so I got an offer on Tioga House after doing everything Rita said. Then right after a crazy inspection, oh God, this is getting juicy already. Then right before a crazy inspection, my ex-husband decided he could waltz in the house. The inspector said some of the craziest things about the house, like the new electrical panel is installed in a wooden box and 0% of the plumbing is to code. The buyer then wanted me to replace the entire roof and drop my price, $50,000 as an as-is house, where we had already agreed to no repairs. I've had an inspection. I don't know. I'm not getting okay. So it went up to, I had the inspection, but that's as far as it went, Lexi. So if you could finish putting that in, and if there's a question, that would be great. This is juicy. You and I need to talk. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'm not really a dream person, MND33, but if you want to throw the question out there, I can try. And Jerry, if you have, um, a question, please do answer it. Okay, so Terry, there we go. Okay, so Terry has a question. Let's see. Hey, so Terry, the way you phrase this question, no criticism, but the way you phrase this question is, do you see a man coming my way for love that soon? And so that's kind of like predict the future question. And so I'm going to shift the focus in a slightly different way. Okay, Terry. So when I look at your relationship space, one of the things that I feel is that you have been unsuccessful in your relationships. I feel like there has been some definite hurt, pain. I mean, I think, once you pass 20, everyone's had that experience, but it's making you really gun shy of opening yourself up to receiving the energy of someone. I mean, almost to the point that someone kind of comes into your life where you are interacting with them and it's almost like you're shutting it down right away. Um, and I'm bringing that up because it is interfering with your ability to receive that love that you're looking for. I mean, bottom line, there's no room for it to come in because there's like this wall there. And so perhaps you could work on that wall and opening yourself up and being more receptive to receiving love and receiving caring and receiving affection from someone else. And then it will make it so that you attract someone into your life. Okay. Okay, so Lexi, I don't really understand your whole thing. So if you have a question, please post it. Okay, so Maya, boy, you guys are just like walking on the line here with me. Can you sense any beings, forces, or spirits guiding me? Okay, so I'm just going to say out loud. So looking at spirit guides is not a dead person, so I will address spirit guide, but if you ask about somebody dead, not so much. Okay, so Maya. So you are showing me there is a very, very tall, thin female who is to the left side of you, kind of behind your left shoulder. Um, I would like to say that she's guiding you, but okay, so I say this about myself and maybe you too. I could be a little hard headed. And so I feel like you are not um, super open to receiving the guidance that she is trying to give you. Um, I feel like you have moments, and I feel like these moments are only when you're really like upset and are trying to understand, like you're kind of beaten down, that you get into that receptive spot where this guide can communicate with you. But I feel like your ego, and I'm trying not to be mean here, but your ego kind of rules and thinks it knows better. And so that's something you might want to pay attention to. You might want to become more mindful of. I feel like your ego, and I'm seeing that more as like the mental constructs, not like you have a big ego, not that in that way, but I'm using it as part of our inner world as a word to represent, part of our inner world, but that part of you wants to control what's going on and wants to control the narrative. And it often tries to shut off that soft, still voice inside. So maybe you could spend some time opening up that channel so that the voice of your guide can come to you more easily. Um, I get the impression that you tend to be pretty empathic. I feel like, there is this healing energy around you. Um, and it's something that you could have flower within yourself. But again, I feel like, that egoic part of your being tries to run everything and force things through that are not necessarily for your highest good. And I feel like you might even be mistaking that voice for your higher self. Okay. All right. So Jerry says about her house, she has burning sensations. Not, we have a very big body. And so is it burning sensations on your skin? Is it burning sensations in your gut? Is it in your mouth? If you could just be a tad bit clearer, then I can look at that specifically. Thank you. Hey, Miss Narcy. Narcy is listening. Okay, so Barbara, let's see. How can I deal with my daughter's mental health? Well, the first thing that came to me was, just stay out of the way. Um, I get the impression that she can be a bit volatile, and challenging to deal with. Um, and please correct me if this is wrong, but I just feel like she has outbursts, and is not very well emotionally regulated. And there's part of me that wants to say, well, maybe she should go on medication, because I don't feel like she's really interested in her own well-being, in her own mental health, that she doesn't really think that there's anything wrong with her. But I feel like bottom line is that she's not very well emotionally regulated. So I'm not sure if she would be open to you requesting her to do things. So when my stepson was small, and he would go visit his mom, and he would come back and he would just be all over the freaking place, because he would be so ungrounded and so triggered. And it became this regular thing that whenever he activated, I would have him sit in a chair and we would do a little guided meditation, which would bring him back into the present moment, help him ground, and help him regroup and emotionally regulate better. You know, I don't know if your daughter is going to be open to that, in any sense of the word. Um, much less working with someone else. I mean, you can't fix your daughter's mental health. Only your daughter can fix her mental health. And she's the one that really needs to step up to the plate and say, I have a problem. So I welcome follow up on that. If you want to respond or have a follow up question, please post it below. Okay. Hey, Miss Narcy, who's here. Okay. So Cheryl wants to know who her main spirit guide is, what their name is. I don't really do names. Um, and then anything specific they want me to know. Okay, we got Cheryl. So Cheryl, you don't really have to go with this name, but this is what they're telling me, but I only can go with names that are really simple and basic. And please don't laugh, but this is what they're showing me. So your spirit guide, the one who came forward, I'll say it that way, the one who came forward is this very, very, very like Danny DeVito short man, very stocky. Um, and this is the part that makes me laugh. He has a lot of body hair. I don't know why he keeps impressing that upon me, but a lot of body hair. And the name he told me was Bruce. If that name resonates with you, great. If not, not so much. I don't really care. Um, so one of the roles, and I like to look at them and, what energy are they bringing to you and bringing to the table or are supporting you? Not that they necessarily have a message, because it's about the dynamic and the relationship. So I don't know if this was an old issue for you, or if this is something that you have just kind of felt in the background, but I just keep getting this sense of weakness and of wanting to like run away and not support yourself. And I feel like one of the things that Bruce is doing, okay, and he said, is I'm giving her a spine. But I feel like he's back there kind of whole propping you up in a really good way, because I feel like, if you were here for the very beginning part, I was talking about fear and how it's based on our internal programming, and I feel like that fear, that not really wanting to come forward, um, by him propping you up, it's giving you a chance to work through that fear so that you can stand on your own 2 feet by yourself. So I feel like the energy and the dynamic that he's bringing to the relationship with you is one of a lot of healing. Um, he thinks that you're doing a good job, so that's good. Okay, so I'm just going to pass through this one message. So he said that made a comment about you don't need to worry that much about what everybody is thinking or feeling or saying. You just need to go with what makes you happy. And I totally edited that because what he said was a bit more direct and kind of nasty. I mean, like in an American French kind of way. Um, so but it's your job to make yourself happy. And so if that means putting up boundaries, then that's what that means. And I think Bruce would really appreciate it if you paid more attention to where you feel that weakness, and breathe and use those feelings, because that's feeling fear, to kind of sort through it and work through what is creating or triggering that feeling inside of you. Okay. All right. Hey, Jeff. Yeah, I like the fractal background. It just seemed appropriate for today. It's been kind of a crazy day. Okay. So if you've been here, been coming regular, Lexi had a house that she had put up for sale, and we had talked several times about what she needed to do to clear the energy in the house to make it be open for someone to buy it. And within less than a week, there was an offer put on the house, and then her ex, okay, my ex too, what a wad, um, apparently hosed the whole thing. So that would be, the narc walking in and changing the energy. So Lexi, let me take another look to see what you need um, to do. I mean, getting the inspection refuted, that would be great. I think you need to have, whose energy, do like, you know, a train load smudging of that energy and move it out. I feel like his energy has planted itself, arms crossed in the middle of the house, not in that same spot, but in the living room. Like, I'm going to own this space. Um, it kind of has this I'm going to screw you over kind of energy. I don't even know how he got onto the property in the first place or into the property in the first place, but. Mm, uh, and I think you working on your upset about the situation, especially you're upset with him. I mean, I really feel like it's really revolving around him and his energy and him intervening in the whole situation. I feel like the faster you can clear the house as well as clear yourself of that anger, things will start to move again. Okay? All right. Let's see. So, Terry, was that good? Okay. Okay. So, LW, hi, and thank you for coming. Um, I mean, I'm not Clara audience, so they don't really like give me, like tell her this. But let me just take a look and see what comes through, and you never know. Okay, and this is LW. Okay, LW, and if you could, well, I don't know if I'll make total sense if this will come up. But I'm just feeling that there are animals around you. I keep seeing an image of a cat coming through, that kind of walks in front of you, kind of like clearing the path for you. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, if you've had cats or you're a cat person, or why I'm seeing this cat. Um, but there's a cat. You know, and it's interesting because that's really all I'm seeing is this cat. You know, when I really try to bring your guides in, they stand really far behind you. Um, this is kind of interesting. I mean, I feel like you channel pretty clear energy. Again, would love feedback um, about that comment. And so I feel like when you need to receive guidance from your guides, I mean, I call my guides the peanut gallery. They sit over here. They're like the best backseat psychics on the planet. I don't know what their names are. I call them the peanut gallery. There's three, sometimes four of them that hang out. Um, but I feel like when you need insights, they will come forward. But I feel like you really are on your path, you know, and again, this cat is like clearing the path for you, and you are just stepping into the energy that is being presented. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. I've never really seen this dynamic before. I would love to get some feedback because it really is an interesting presentation, you know, but everyone comes to the table with a different and their own presentation. So I would love to hear some feedback. Okay, so Sherry says that makes sense. I appreciate the message. Okay, great. Okay. So MNRD34 from YouTube says, some believe pain and illness stem from emotional trauma. Severe knee pain came on overnight and has been with me for 5 days. Dr. Bernard's book doesn't cover it, nor does it suggest a conflict. Clues? Okay, so I'm going to give you my like opinion, and then I'm going to take a look at what's going on. Great question. See, that's a great question. Um, a lot of pain and illness does come from emotional trauma, but it's not necessarily, okay, I'm going to quantify that. Necessarily, this happened to me yesterday, so I'm experiencing this issue today. You know, usually it's this happened to me 30 years ago, and over time and instances, it has manifested into cancer, or it has manifested into such and such and such and such. Okay. So when I'm working with a client, when I'm doing a medical intuitive evaluation, you know, and they have an issue with their digestion, you know, they have burning in their stomach or their liver, you know, they're not processing foods correctly or whatever, you know, I can feel into the organs and glands and help to identify the emotional trauma that is underlying the health concern. Okay, but that's like long-term chronic stuff, not acute where it happened yesterday. um, you know, sometimes it does happen, sometimes not. Okay, so when I look at you, I get the impression that there was someone that was trying to, and the word I'm going to use is control your energy. They wanted to be on top. They wanted to be right. They wanted to be in charge and wanted you to, and I'm going to use this word very specifically, they wanted you to genuflect in front of them. Um, it's hard for me to tell if it was, you know, like, you know, not instantaneously, but sometimes things like this can happen, you know, and I usually like to give it a week window, you know, where something happened and then we ruminate on it for a while because it irritates us. and then we manifest it. So, but I do feel like you kind of pulled like a tendon. Um, your body is suggesting to ice it. If you're not taking any kind of anti-inflammatories, as far as like turmeric or ginger or something to help with the inflammation, because there is some pretty good inflammation going on. Um, that's going to help it as well. But addressing the conflict isn't going to help it, because it wasn't. So the reason that person bothered you would be, something that you would maybe want to stop and look at and address, because that person pushed on old trauma that came to the forefront. Um, but the fact that you ended up ruminating on it and bringing this forward, that is also, look at that. Look at where your mind went, because in that rumination is the answer to unwinding the emotional programming and trauma that set it off in the first place. I hope that makes sense. And please, please, if, I would love some feedback. Man, we're just on a spirit guide thing today. Okay, so Barbara, who is my spirit guide? Didn't I already talk about your spirit guide? Oh, that was your daughter. Okay, we're back. Okay, all right, there we go. All right, I found my spot. Okay, Barbara, who is my spirit guide? Again, I don't really give names. What would they like me to do or to know? They don't really tell me that. They just show me how they're there and helping and supporting. Um, Well, I don't even want to like say this out loud, but Barbara, I'm wondering if you maybe have a little bit of an issue with an attached entity. I'm looking at you and I see this giant kind of monstery looking guy standing behind you, kind of occupying the field. And I feel like he tends to fill your head with negative thinking, very critical, mean thinking. And I'm going to stop right there and please respond to that, because that's what I'm seeing. And if that is your pattern, that something happened and you go into kind of a really dark place. I like to call it my rabbit hole. If you end up in your rabbit hole of just really dark thinking, please let me know, because I'm going to respond to it differently, because I don't want, I just am being prudent here. Okay. All right. So we have Vegan Mom Holistic Doctor from YouTube writing. Hello, Dr. Rita. I would love your insight on whether it's best for us to move to Florida so that my homeschooled son has more social opportunities. We have seen their example boys and girls club. Vegan Mom, I get the impression that it would be a really good move for all of you. I feel like it's going to take you a little bit of time to emotionally acclimate to Florida. But I feel like it would be good. I'm not quite sure where you're looking to go. When I kind of like put Florida in my mind, and I have to sit here and kind of point, but what I'm feeling resonates with you and your family is more like the northeastern part of the state versus further south in the state. So I don't know if that's where you've been looking, but I feel like it is the place that would feel more at home to you. Um, but no, I think it's a good move and a good opportunity. So yeah, go for it. Okay, so we're back with Lexi. All right, do I want to put it? All right, I'm going to put this up and I'm just going to make this short and sweet. I'm not even going to read it. So, Lexi, you need to just shut his energy out. So yeah, you just, okay, good. All right, you know, okay, so LW said, thank you, spot on. And I'm like, okay, sometimes I sit here and I talk about stuff and I don't even really know what I'm talking about. Okay, so Maya asked, can you sense any spiritual gifts? Okay, let's see. Okay, so the two that I see strongest for you are your clairvoyant, your ability to see images in your mind's eye, and your clairaudience, which is your ability to hear spirit. And I'm going to say that your clairaudience tends to be stronger. And I'm saying that because you actually pay more attention to that soft, still voice inside, much more than you pay attention to um, the images that you get in your mind's eye. I get the impression that when you get images in your mind's eye, you just think that they're your imagination. But I want to share with you that many times um, it's not. And so, think it would be great. I just finished. I'm working on a new book, and I just finished this whole chapter about. Well, I'm in the middle of it, about how spirit communicates with us. And it's one thing when we hear spirit and pay attention. And it's another thing when we hear spirit and don't pay attention. But I challenge people that when they get information, that whether or not they pay attention to it, they can acknowledge it and use that to validate that they received the information in the first place. True story. Happened the other day. So my dishwasher, for some reason, I have things breaking around my house. So my dishwasher stopped working, and the bottom of it was filled with water. And it was right during Christmas, and so my repair guy wasn't going to be back till after New Year's, and I didn't want to leave the water in the bottom of the dishwasher because I just figured it would just stink. So I'm like, okay, let's see, what am I going to do? And I get this like little plastic cup and a bucket and some ShamWow towel, and I'm scooping with this bucket, which wasn't really working very good. And so I stopped and I asked, there's got to be an easier way. There's got to be something else I can use. So what comes into my mind? A turkey baster. And I'm like, hey, I bet that would work. And I got that turkey baster out and I used it and I emptied out that dishwasher. Way easier than the cup. Way easier than the cup. But I think a lot of people, if you saw the turkey baster in your mind, you would just go and ignore it and move on and keep doing with the cup. And I challenge you to, when you get that voice, when you get that image, when you get that feeling, to listen to it and, act on it, don't act on it. Act on it and notice the results. Don't act on it and notice the results. That's my commentary. Okay, Maya? Okay, so let's see. All right, Chris and Jerry. Hey, Jerry, different question. We have these rocks on our property that are rectangular straight cuts. Most are 3 by 4. Some have straight grooves. Chris and I think they were an ancient structure. Do you feel that? Ooh, good question. I like ones like that. Yes, I do. And when I feel into the property, I feel a lot of Native American energy there or old energy there. Okay, and this is going to sound weird and kind of like weird specific. So if my back is to the road and there are those stones in front of you, then off to the left, I feel like there are going to be more artifacts in that area. Um, because I feel like there was population or a settlement there. But there is definitely energy again, and I'm assuming it's the road behind me. Um, but yeah, road behind you, rocks off to the left. And not like 2 feet, but like maybe 10, 20 feet off to the left. But cool. Um, and I do feel like there's quite a bit of activity there. So if there's someone in your area, or if you guys do, like a ghost box or EVP stuff, I think it would be an appropriate place to do that kind of work to see if any messages come through, because it does feel pretty active there. Okay, great. Okay. All right, so Barbara is back and says, "Yes, I do go into rabbit hole. Try to keep to myself." Okay, Barbara. So, so I feel like you have. I'm not. The impression that I get is that you have an attached entity. An attached entity is a being without a body, who they're kind of like the narcissist of the spirit world. And they like to attach to us because they like to suck energy off of us. And very often they get triggered by a certain emotional vibration within us. I like to liken them to the bat phone. We're going along fine, and then somebody says something or something happens, and it's Commissioner Gordon. See, I date myself here, lifting up that glass cover and pushing that big old black button in the center, calling the entity in. Dealing with and addressing an attached entity is way outside the scope of this. I have worked with a number of people addressing that. I have some videos on YouTube if it's something you want to dig more into, or they're on my webpage, soulhealer.com. That's soulhealer.com. And if you look under like ghosts and spirits in the articles, there's the articles as well as the videos on there. But I think it would give you some more information about them and give you some guidance about how to break that cycle. Okay. All right, so this is a little on the predict the future comments, but let me see. Will my oldest son get a client in the next few weeks for his startup company? All right, Beth. So, and I'm just going to say this out loud. I feel like uh, his marketing is like there's not a lot of activity going on in that area. Um, my dad would say, well, you're going to hang a shingle. And I feel like there's part of his energy that is like, well, I hung a shingle and people should come to me. And one of the things that I've learned about business is it's all about pounding the pavement and pounding the pavement and pounding the pavement to get butts and chairs. And I don't get the impression that that's where his energy is. And so if that's not his deal, and I'm looking at his energy and not the company's energy, if that's not his deal, like not something he's comfortable in doing, then perhaps he might want to find someone, a firm or service or a person who would support that activities to help get butts and chairs. All right, so we're kind of running out of time. Uh, okay, all right, this is my last one for today. Zinthi? Sorry, I have no phonics skills. Um, my mother will be leaving with her boyfriend across the country for 4 months for a business opportunity. Is there anything I can do to help keep her protected energetically during this time? I mean, I don't get the impression that your mom has protection issues. I get the impression that she kind of gets into funks, so anything that you can do to help keep her grounded, help her kind of keep emotionally stable. I don't know if Tanya's still in here, but I feel like her having a crystal to help keep her grounded, and to keep her vibration up. You know, I'm really not a crystal person, but I'm feeling like a pink, a rose quartz, a rhodochrosite might be appropriate. Maybe some amethyst would be appropriate. But just things that will keep her energy up and high during this period. I mean, I think it's going to be pretty good. And the biggest words that I'm getting is if she can stay out of her own way. I don't feel like things around her are going to affect her. I feel like it's going to be her own energy that's going to be her biggest demon. All right. So our time is up for this week. If I didn't get to you this week, please come back. Come back early so I can get to you earlier in the show. If you would like to schedule a private consultation with me, please go to my website, soulhealer.com. That's soulhealer.com. Please friend me on Facebook. That would be Dr. Rita Louise on Facebook. And or on YouTube by going to Just Energy Radio on YouTube. And so I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Monday Night Live with Dr. Rita Louise. I will be back here next Monday night to answer your questions. So I look forward to seeing you. Or if you have any friends who could use my help, have questions that they need to ask, need guidance and insight, please invite them to come. This is an open forum and not limited to just my Facebook friends or people that subscribe to me on YouTube. Okay? So until next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. Be blessed.